Hi, my name is Jamie Roth. I'm an intuitive healer, and today I want to talk about authenticity. So, I'm not talking about the social media buzzword. I'm also not talking about cute quotes with flowers behind it. I'm talking about the real kind that comes after unraveling everything you were taught to be. I work with a lot of women who are going through massive identity shifts, leaving roles they didn't choose, questioning belief systems they were raised in, and realizing that they never actually asked, "Who am I?" really without all of this. So, what does authenticity actually mean? I believe that authenticity is not about being loud, although sometimes it is. I'm a pretty loud person. It's not about telling everyone everything, although sometimes it is. I do that too. But it's definitely not about being liked. That is for certain. So it's authenticity is when who you are on the inside matches what the world sees. There's no pretending, there's no masking. Genuinely, what you feel and believe and think, your values, your morals, your needs, your standards are lived outwardly. There's no question to other people about who you are. There's no question to you about who you are. But here's the thing, most of us weren't raised to be authentic. We were raised to be appropriate. Just take a breath and take that in for a minute. Raised to be appropriate, to be liked, to fit in, and most importantly, to make others comfortable. That lands, doesn't it? So authenticity doesn't always feel natural at first when you begin that practice of living authentically. It often feels awkward, messy, and even selfish. I have a lot of women describe feeling selfish when they step into their most authentic self. So I'm going to name a few reasons about why women suddenly realize they don't know who they are anymore. And so I would say, firstly, it's because we as women tend to live through roles and labels that are put upon us. And we have decades of this. So first we're a daughter, then we're a friend, we're a niece. And obviously men have these roles too, but we automatically tend to be viewed and put into roles such as motherhood, wife, whereas men don't necessarily have to be guaranteed those roles and labels, but women are. We're given these roles before we even knew we had a choice. A second is fear. So if I stop being who people expect me to be, what will happen? Will I lose connection? Will I still be loved? As well as women tend to naturally, plus be indoctrinated into always caring for other people. That's a big role for females. So when you begin to step into like a new version of yourself, there's often a question of how are the other people in my life going to be affected? And then a lot of women will pull back so as not to affect other people. They'll pull back from living there authentically and just go back into the roles and labels. And then third, there's a lot of shame. So shame around needing something different or wanting to be different. Shame for outgrowing systems and beliefs that we once swore by. One thing about humans is that we do not like to admit that we were wrong or that we have a new opinion or that we're choosing differently, especially if it's like vastly differently, right? Like a different spiritual belief versus the religion we were in or a political stance or anything like that. And that's because in society, we see mistakes as a weakness, right? In school, we were taught all along that like through testing and stuff, that getting it right, getting good grades, being the best is the best. Anything below that is a weakness. It's not seen as okay to just be kind of who you are and know what you know and live how you want to live. So there can be a lot of shame in choosing differently. But honestly, there is nothing more important than someone stepping into their most authentic version and sharing that with the world. In one of my previous videos, I talked about energy and what it is, and it is a vibrational frequency. Like scientifically, it's a vibrational frequency, the speed at which atoms and molecules and subatomic particles move, and we're in just a vibrational frequency soup. That's how we live. We are a vibrational frequency ourselves. We fluctuate. But interestingly, they've recently discovered that authenticity is actually the highest vibe, the fastest vibrational frequency of the human experience. That's above love and enlightenment. Go figure. Except that I get it, because people are really drawn to authentic people. Not always. Let me segue here for a minute. Some people are very off-put by authentic people because it triggers their own shame, their own inability to live authentically. I do believe that's why a lot of the queer community, particularly the trans community, gets a lot of hate, because they are living their most authentic self out loud in the face of hatred, ridicule, and danger. Trans people have some of the highest rate of potentially being murdered, and yet they still do it because they know that they cannot live a life in which they suffer from inauthenticity. They can't go on pretending being someone they are not just to make someone else comfortable. You also see this in neurodivergent community. It's called masking, which really isn't just for the neurodivergent community. Everybody does it to some degree, but it's a common term that we've sort of come up with in the neurodivergent community, because it's the ability to put on basically different faces, different presentations of yourself, again, in order to make other people feel comfortable. So for example, not stimming, pulling on your hair, making noises, clapping your hands, moving your body in different ways. Like, a lot of neurodivergent people need to constantly be moving and shifting, but they've learned to keep themselves completely still and quiet in order to be appropriate. They also spend a lot of time learning what's appropriate dialogue and what's not, so as not to say the weird things that might make other people uncomfortable. Neurodivergent people spend copious amounts of time exhausting themselves trying to make sure they're always making the right amount of eye contact. Not too much, not too little. I actually know somebody that has learned how to count how long, let me back up. She learned what was appropriate amount of eye contact over her years of being told she wasn't making enough, or she was making people uncomfortable by staring too deeply. So she spends time during conversation counting how long she's making eye contact, and then looking away and looking back. Oh, and she counts that too, and then she looks back. That shit is exhausting. That's why so many neurodivergent people go into burnout, because they're struggling to live in these boxes created by others instead of authentically. But I digress. Again, I want to remind you that authenticity is actually the highest vibrational frequency in human form, and there are many reasons we choose not to do it. Fear, shame, uncertainty. So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about what authenticity actually feels like, because it's not always peaceful or pretty in the beginning when you start to explore it. It's actually pretty uncomfortable, quite frankly. So I want you to take a moment and take a couple breaths and just feel into the word inauthenticity and see where it lands in your own life, in your own body. See if you can evoke through a couple of just breaths, hands on your heart. Where are you living inauthentically? You get it. And like, what do you do? What do you know that you do that's about making other people comfortable? That's about being appropriate in society by society's standards and bullshit rules. Just even having that conversation, I feel tightness in my throat. It's draining. It just feels constricted. It feels tight. I get this, I think that's where I tend to be the most inauthentic, and I'm a pretty authentic person, but if it does arrive, that's where it's going to be, keeping my truth back. So you might leave a conversation when you're being authentic. You worry about leaving a conversation and then ruminating, what are other people thinking about me, assuming they're thinking the worst. But I just want to segue here and let you know that honestly, most people are not thinking about you because they're only thinking about themselves. But that's inauthenticity. It's being something different, because if you're you, people might feel badly about you. Meanwhile, authenticity is grounded and you just feel certain. I'm not saying it's totally comfortable all the time, but it is grounded. So authenticity might look like things like saying no without apologizing. Can you imagine? The amount of times women who come into my space apologize for everything they do, where they sit, they were a minute late, they need to use the bathroom. I'm sorry, can I use your bathroom? I'm sorry, is it okay if I sit here? I'm sorry, I'm late, when really they're literally right on time. Authenticity is about not buying into urgency culture and immediately texting and emailing people back. And when you do finally text back, you start with an apology or reason why it took you so long. You can just simply respond like by responding. Like you can just jump back into the conversation. Isn't that the great thing about texts and emails? Like the conversation's always there to pick up. So for me, if I take a while to get back to somebody, say like a couple weeks, I might say, hey, I've been busy, but then I just move on. I don't start with like, I'm sorry, da 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 da, and all these explanations. I'm just like, okay, I'm finally here. I'm ready. Rarely will you catch me apologizing for taking the time I need to respond. Remind yourself we were never meant to always be at people's beck and call at any moment. That's actually very unhealthy. Authenticity looks like letting someone be disappointed in you. That idea doesn't even sound pleasant, does it? Nobody likes that, not even me. But true authenticity is allowing that to happen and not trying to desperately rewrite the narrative in your head or for them. You get to let them write their own narrative about you, whether it's in a good light or not. Showing up without makeup is a big one, especially on social media. And no, there's nothing wrong with makeup. It can be a beautiful art form. I admire women who do it so well. I'm not a makeup wearer except for a little bit of mascara and lip gloss, but I'm talking more like all the filters and stuff and always being done up wherever you go. I made a decision several years ago to refuse using filters on social media. So the only ones I do use are sometimes backgrounds, but nothing that changes my face or my body shape or size. And the other thing I committed to was always showing myself in real pictures and not just from certain angles that make me look a certain way. So no, I wouldn't say that I always look pretty in all of my pictures or thin, but I look real. You see me from different angles. You see me with dark circles under my eyes. Sometimes my nose looks big, sometimes not. Sometimes I look bigger, sometimes I look smaller, because that is the actual human shape shifting that we do. We do look different from different angles and different, from up here, from down here, from here. And so I allow myself to be seen in all of that in my social media. Now, for full transparency, I'm a business and I've taken branding photos. So of course those are going to be done in the right light. I do try to look my best, so to speak. So I can't say that I've never used a filter when I have a professional photographer who takes, great pictures of me. But in general, I don't use any filters to change how I look so that people see me clearly for who I am and all of it. Another example of authenticity is following your intuition, even when it doesn't make logical sense. That's a big one because so often we have been squashed out of listening to our intuition. I have another video about intuition as well. And we aren't taught to trust it or that it's okay. And so we have learned to squash that voice and keep it quiet. So if you are deciding to listen to your intuition and dive into it, that's actually a pretty big deal. That's a certain trust you have to have within yourself. That definitely takes authenticity, 100%. And feeling confident to live through the lens of your intuition and let other people know it was an intuitive sense. I mean, you don't have to walk around being like, I'm psychic, but, being like, hey, I had a feeling. I don't want to go to that tonight. I can't explain the feeling, but I had a feeling and I just feel a no in my body. So I'm not going to go to that event tonight. I can't do it. Another one that I see unfold a lot, and this is in the most beautiful way, is being authentic in movement. So I teach a Goddess Flow somatic movement class every week. And part of the process of Goddess Flow is very much about women stepping into how to authentically move their body. And what I typically see with the very first class, if not the first couple, is women coming in a little bit closed down, like they're excited, there's anticipation, they don't exactly know what it is, they've read the descriptions, it piqued their interest, but they don't really know what's gonna happen in Goddess Flow. And so they come in and typically a little shy, a little reserved, literally like the way they're holding their bodies, a little closed off. They set out their mat. A lot of people wanna find like the back of the room or the corner so they can just kind of keep to themselves. And then they want to just kind of like not be seen. But I talk a lot at Goddess Flow about it not being a performative thing. We're there to actually like breathe and drop into our body and allow it to move how it naturally will. So when you're performative, you step into it and you do the moves that you believe to look beautiful or sexy or professional, or worthy of being seen by someone else's eyes. But in Goddess Flow, we drop the performance and instead we get to ask our body, how does it want to move? So we might just start getting wild or silly or just like, just like all over the place, just, ugh. And it can feel so weird at first. And it can feel so like awkward. But once women have come a couple of times and they realize they are genuinely allowed to just like move how they need to, it's amazing. It's a beautiful thing. On a similar note, authenticity for women can look like loving their sexual selves, feeling free to embrace their sexuality and whatever that looks like, sounds like, dresses like, how they are with a partner, how they are with their own body in a solo manner. I mean, for real, women are typically not allowed or taught to embrace their sexuality. We're given labels like whore, right? Or slut if we, if we want to have multiple partners or just visibly be sexy. And we're often blamed when we are harmed sexually because we dressed a certain way. So authenticity can very much be about a woman showing herself in whatever manner she wants that feels best to her and realizing that it's not actually that much about what other people think about it. Authenticity can look like dancing through the grocery store, which I do often. I never go grocery shopping without my AirPods in and music because I do not like the energy of stores, so I tune it out by jamming out. And you will literally see this 48-year-old woman dancing down the aisles. And I don't mean a little bit. I mean, I will literally be like moving, jamming all over the place. I'll be lip syncing. My music is loud. I do not care. If you look at me and don't smile and think that looks like fun, then that seems like a you problem. That's not a me problem. So I genuinely do not care what random people in the grocery store think about me. I also don't care if people I know see me. Join me. Get your AirPods in. I'll hand you one of mine. Do you want to go through the produce and, find some stuff while we're jamming out? And so I find grocery shopping to be an unpleasant experience, and this is the way I can make it joyful to me. That's authentic for me. Okay, hopefully with these examples, you're starting to understand that authenticity is not performative, it's embodied. Embodiment. It's being who you are when the inside matches what the rest of the world gets to see. So if you're wondering, okay, how do I come back to myself? Here are 3 gentle practices to try. No pressure, no perfection, just intention. Okay, practice 1 is a body wisdom check-in. You're gonna ask yourself, what I'm doing right now, does this feel expansive or contracting in my body? The body knows before the brain actually catches up. So start letting your nervous system help you decide what's real for you. If you are locking down and feeling clogged up, then you're not being authentic. You might still be anxious or feel a little awkward in your authenticity, but it should still feel freeing and open and expansive. Practice number 2 is a voice reclamation. So in a journal or say out loud, practice saying, what would I say right now if I wasn't afraid? What would I say right now if I wasn't afraid? This isn't about confrontation, it's about connection to your own truth. I think that's a really awesome question to ask yourself. I think you can get to the root of some things with that one. And then practice 3, I love this one as well, the 5% truth. Where could you be with just 5% more honesty today? So like maybe it's a boundary you need to instill, maybe it's asking for help. You don't have to blow everything up, but small truths lead to big freedom. Just 5%, that's it. Not 100%, not all in right away, because authenticity is not a light switch, although sometimes it is. For me, honestly, it actually was, but I find in general that not to be true. For most people, sorry. Oh, I apologize. It can be a habit for all of us. So it's not a light switch, it's like a practice, and it's a lifelong relationship with yourself, because you're always going to grow into another authentic version. You are going to change your mind. You can change your values, just like we talked about earlier. So you're going to be gentle with yourself. You're going to be curious and know that you're coming back to yourself in the most radical healing that you can do. I really believe that genuinely, that moving into your most authentic self is the most radical kind of healing you can do, and living that outwardly for the world to see. So if any of this resonated for you, I'd love to hear what part landed the most. You can drop a comment below. And if you're craving more support or community, sacred space to explore your truth, you're always welcome inside one of my circles or virtual offerings at www.intuitiveencounters.com. I'm so glad you're here. Keep going. You got this, and I got you.